Okay. All right. Well, welcome to my next one-on-one. This one, we have been trying to get on the books for a very long time. I want to welcome Rachel Llanes to, I don't even know if we can call this a program, but a sit-down conversation. And to introduce you, I think I have this unique perspective because I've worked with you. First, we got introduced as I was a guest in one of your presentations. And the presentation really... It kind of spoke to me on different levels, initially as at a business level and some of the things from a leadership and culture perspective that really I believe in wholeheartedly. And then I said, I got to sit down and go through one-on-one on kind of what I'm going through experiencing wise with my business and personal life. And then you were like, oh my gosh, I have this also. And so we started working in my personal and relationships. And from there, it has evolved into working from a leadership perspective with my company. So I have a whole host of experiences with you, and I'm so excited to kind of dive in because the three topics I think we're going to really dive into today that are interesting, and hopefully the anyone listening is going to get something from it, are going to be performance. How can we all perform at our maximum? How can we get the most out of whatever time we have on this earth? Leadership, how can we lead the life and the people around us that are purposeful and meaningful to us and others? And then relationships, the one that I seem to know the least about and the one that I'm so curious on. And so we'll tie that in towards the end because I think either dating an entrepreneur or dating in general and love in general seems to be not just a hot topic, but one that everyone is confused about. So Rachel, thank you for coming. I'm really excited to have you.
Casey, I'm stoked to be here. You know, I've never had the pleasure of being a guest with someone I've had such extensive work with before. You really do know the topics that are near and dear to my heart when it comes to performance at work, when it comes to leadership at work, and when it comes to love in life. So I'm really excited to dig in with you.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if I start crying if I start just crying, just bawling into tears at any given point, then we'll know that comes from somewhere genuine. But
well, you know how I operate. If you cry, I cry. So
okay,
get ready,
all right,
everyone.
good luck. All right. So with that said, I think the easiest place for us to jump in and probably the most satisfying to me is performance. I love thinking about maximization of opportunities and skill sets. And when you're maybe not just talking to people, but when you're evaluating performance, maybe one-on-one or organizational performance, how are you maybe dissecting that or talking about that or thinking about that when you're, kind of evaluating things?
Yeah, I think my background really informs how I look at it. So in a past life, I was a performance coach for the U.S. military, and I really started thinking about how optimizing performance comes only from an authentic place. And perfectionism can really block our ability to learn and grow and achieve mastery. So when I'm observing teams and company cultures and working one-on-one with people, I really try to see if they're being genuine, if they're being authentic. And, in business and in life, we can wear hats and masks. Hats I celebrate. You have several hats. The entrepreneur hat, the son hat, the brother hat, the friend hat. There's many, many hats that you wear. And those hats are natural. They're the roles that we play in the relationships that we have in life. The problem that I look for when it comes to performance are the masks that we wear when we hide our true selves. True optimizing a performance can only come when we take the mask off and we let people see our real selves. We're not pretending. We're not performing. We're genuinely giving our best effort.
So that's interesting. So let's talk about that. How can you tell if what's a tell for you if you're sitting down with someone or a leader or some sort of teammate, how can you tell if somebody's putting a mask on or if it's their authentic self, especially if it's a new relationship?
Well, you're in the people business. Authenticity is felt. It's felt. It's an energy. So really, it's not so much about what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. It's about what I'm feeling. When someone is being genuine, it's very easy to feel like you're connecting with them because there's no barrier of inauthenticity. So it's really, to me, more about the emotion of the moment, the energy I'm getting from them and feeling with them.
Okay.
Because I can't connect to performative posturing. I can only connect to authenticity.
Interesting. Okay, so as that relates to performance, let's say someone is showing up and you have a connection and you're feeling that they're in their authentic self. What are next steps as you go through your process?
That's such a good question.
Okay.
So when the mask is off, we see the mistakes. When the mask is off, we're able to see areas of improvement. We're able to see sustained, like strengths. Everybody, I believe, has superpowers. And we can access that more greatly when we're being our genuine selves. But we can also access the areas of improvement. We're not trying to hide our humanity, because we understand that through that we can actually become better versions of ourselves, perform at better heights at work. So when I'm in my executive coaching sessions, when my C-suites take the mask off and say, Rach, I fucked that up. That performance review I had with my direct report, I wasn't prepared. I didn't do the research required. I really didn't bring my best self. And I get to say, great, let's talk about it. What went wrong? What went well? And what did we learn? That's this next step to taking the mask off, is once you're willing to look at yourself authentically, you're able to see the flaws, the warts, and work to resolve them.
Okay, so I have an interesting question, and one in which I have my own opinion, but I want to get yours first. You mentioned this idea of superpower. And when you're evaluating performance and trying to maybe peel back some of the onion on what's working and what's not, do you find that high performers can or should, or take the answer wherever you want to go, but should people in general lean into their powers, or should they focus on their strengths and try to correct or course correct some of their strengths? Or how do you?
That is one of the most important questions for business owners to be asking themselves, really for anyone to be asking.
Yeah, anyone. I think this
And I'm
applies to
very
everyone.
biased and very passionate and very opinionated.
I hope I agree with you. Okay.
I hope you do too. So my background is in psychology. I have a master's in marriage family therapy, and I've spent an extensive amount of my 15 some odd years in the field of psychology and positive psychology. And positive psychology has researched that question.
Okay.
And they have a very clear answer.
Okay.
Spend your time identifying and harnessing your strengths. Outsource your weaknesses. So if you're not great at, the numbers or the daily execution, you're more of a vision guy or gal, that's incredible. Breathe into that strength. Maximize, optimize your superpower, which is vision. And your weakness is execution. Well, that's why we all need a number two, the visionaries. We need someone who can take that vision and do the grunt work, if you will, to turn the vision into the reality. So my opinion is very much, we must not only identify our superpowers and know what our weaknesses are, we need to craft our life, our job, our profession around our superpowers and delegate and outsource whatever our weaknesses are.
Okay, so we absolutely agree. It's because interesting. I have this, sometimes when you're sitting down with someone, you're having a conversation, especially in our circumstance where we've known each other for a number of years now and have gone deep in different topics. And this one just happens to be top of mind because more recently, as we've been scaling the business, I've caught myself in areas that it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't make me fulfilled. I'm not necessarily good at them. And so while I know it's going to take my time and attention, it takes away from the things that I am good at, the things I enjoy doing, it's not fulfilling. And certainly I would probably say a lot of my members of my team are like, can you just go the fuck away? I know we know you mean well, but get out of our way. So anyway, I have to pay attention to this. And as someone who has an organization with a lot of different layers to it, there's certain things that you have to stay out of, even though you're drawn to them. And that's not necessarily the place that I need to be.
And
Can I
so,
ask you a question?
yeah, sure.
Okay. I know how much you value self-awareness as a leader. The best leaders I know are incredibly self-aware. Bringing it back to performance for a minute. Which of these two categories, Casey, do you perform best in? The areas of your strengths or the areas of your weakness where you try as hard as you can, even though it drains the life source out of you?
Yeah, no, it's really clearly on the strengths. Very, very clearly. Yeah. And that's when ultimately the business is doing better, the culture is doing better. It's a domino effect is when I am in my maybe sweet spot or strengths. One is being aware of what you're good at, and two is embracing it and leaning into that. I think those things are good from a performance perspective. I would love your take on it. You can feel free to use, New Venture or myself as an example, but I think you're absolutely right. And I think there's often times where we drift when we're not paying attention. And oftentimes, like with email, like you can just start responding to stuff and doing stuff. Like if you're not focused and you're just kind of doing and you're active and not like it's not maybe best use of your time and energy, I think you get away from top end performance.
I completely agree. And, when you, Casey, are in your strength space, you are magnetic. Anyone listening to this, anyone who has worked with you in the past knows you have this electricity. When you're in your strength space, it draws people to you. It's incredible. I've been on the receiving end of it. You motivate me, you inspire me. I feel like zapped with the bolt of energy when I'm talking about action with you. It's genuine. It's really true, because that's one of your superpowers, is this ability to think strategic and look at the big picture and see the forest, right? When you and I have to look at a single tree, maybe we're talking about performance coaching for team members for your business, and we're getting very detailed and very in the weeds. That's a little draining for us. That's not either one of our strength spaces, right? So I know for myself, anytime I'm spending too much time outside of my superpowers, that's a red flag for me, because life and work is meant to be flowy and fun.
So in light of that, as a performance coach, if you're coaching someone that is struggling with that, or anyone listening, how do you advise them? What are some specifics that you give to them, so maybe people listening can take some of those away?
Oh, such a good question. The first thing I do when I'm sitting down with a new coaching client is to ask them what their superpowers are.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but do people know in general?
Almost always, I get the deer in headlights look.
Wow, interesting.
Huh? What? And that's why I love getting to help them discover the strengths within.
So you're almost helping them find it, or not even find it. They already know it. They just have never maybe articulated it or acknowledged it. Is that fair?
I'm helping them define it.
Define it. Interesting.
Because when you have a word, when you have a label, it makes it more meaningful. They often, most of us, especially peak performers, by the way, people that have incredibly high standards of themselves are very self-aware of their weaknesses and very, very unclear what their superpowers are. So one of my superpowers is pure presence. Right now, there's nothing in the world to me but you and I in this conversation. Nothing else exists. I'm completely in this moment. My attention, my focus is 100% here, nowhere else. And I can do this for extended periods of time. I can do this for an 8-hour intensive coaching experience. And that's some of my secret sauce. And so when I sit down with clients for the first time, they often don't know. And that's the journey of understanding yourself better. It's not just where you weak at, not just what's wrong with me, but what's strong with me.
Yeah, I love that.
And when you breathe life into that question, what's wrong with me, you shrink the voice that's constantly asking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I'm just really passionate about this topic, obviously.
I love it. So the thing that's coming up for me right now, and maybe something in my life that I'm curious, and I don't think I've ever even said it actually out loud, but something that I really want your opinion on is I'm in this stage of my life where can you over optimize? Every time that I'm sitting down, I was watching a television show over the weekend and I felt almost guilty. Like I should be working out. I should be working. I should be calling my family or friend. Like every single 10-minute block needs to be complete in these progress. I got to progress. I got to keep going. I got to get better. I got to get where you're almost infatuated with. You're fixated on it, and so you can like almost over optimize for it into where you're like, you had suggested a book that I thought I was absolutely going to hate, and I ended up couldn't put it down. What was the name of it? Stillness. Yeah, it was a great book, and I thought for sure I wasn't going to like it, and it just happened to be one of those times where I couldn't put it down because it was the right book at the right time in my life, and it talks about this. And so I've been thinking about it and kind of maybe going back and forth. One shoulder saying this, one shoulder saying this. But can you touch on that, or maybe what you see in high performers?
Absolutely. High performers can obsess to a fault about human optimization. And in this era of media where we have Instagram and we have books and we have just this constant stream of noise about how to be better. You should exercise. You shouldn't drink. You should sleep. You should eat this. You shouldn't eat this. You should go here. You shouldn't go here. Like there's this laundry list of things that we quote unquote should be doing. We're shitting all over ourselves. And Aristotle talked about the golden mean, which is about a balance, right? Everything in life is a balance. And when you become too obsessed with something, you're out of balance. So rest is productive. Time for stillness, time for solitude, putting your toes in the sand at the beach and feeling the sunshine on your face. I mean, that is restorative. That is recharging of our batteries, our souls, and we need that time. So I really love this idea that Aristotle proposed to us thousands of years ago, which is the golden mean. It's all about balance. And the balancing act can feel very, very difficult, right? Because usually there's trade-offs. When I prioritize my physical fitness, usually my social life comes at a cost, right? I'm not going out to happy hours. I'm not drinking. I'm not eating out. I'm in bed or getting ready for bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. There's trade-offs. And so we have to really live intentionally and be able to find that balance. So when you're on the couch at home, you have a lovely place. When you're at the couch at home enjoying the show, your rest is restful because you're telling yourself, this is good. This is necessary. My brain deserves a break.
Yeah.
And it is true. And I think deep down, most people know that, including myself. I think we wrestle with it, and it is part of some of the things that get you to certain levels, or the things also too that you're just going to constantly have a inner battle with. Let's get back to performance and give me some idea on, and thank you for that, by the way. I think it is such a great point, is finding that balance and medium that is appropriate. And there's probably different times in your life where the scale moves a bit. It's not just a one size fits all at every time for the rest of your life.
Right.
So true.
Yeah,
my closest cousin just had a baby, right? So in this season of her life, her priorities are totally different. In different seasons, we have different priorities. I'm really glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. I think that's a great point for everybody. So getting back to performance, I think everybody genuinely wants to perform well. I think for the most part, people are like, I want to do more. I want to do better. Are there certain things from a performance, perspective that you're saying, hey, you should track this, or you should think about this when it comes down to it?
I have two for you.
Okay.
So there's two tools I teach in performance coaching. One is a time management tool, a productivity tool, and the other is a prioritization. And they're really synergistic. So in the Army, they have this acronym WIN. It stands for what's important now. And that's really how we win in life and in business, is being able to identify what's most important now in alignment with my goals. And so you need a prioritization framework for that. I teach the 4D formula. Do I do this? Do I delegate this? Do I delay this? Or do I delete this? It's a really important framework that helps us block out the noise, because invitations pop up constantly to go to this business meeting, this network event, say yes to this, say yes to this. Well, sometimes when you're saying yes to something you shouldn't, you're saying no to something you should.
Yeah.
So this idea of prioritization really is key when it comes to performance. And then with time management, time management is really about energy management, because time comes from us. Time is subjective. You and I are going to be talking for 45 minutes, maybe an hour today, it's going to fly by for me like the blink of an eye. But an hour-long conversation about something I don't care about, something maybe in the shallow end, it's going to drag on and feel like an eternity. So having a time management tool is really, really helpful. I teach timeboxing. Timeboxing is, according to Harvard Business Review, the #1 productivity tool you can use. It's very simple. At the start of your week, you brain dump everything you need to get done, everything you need to achieve or make progress in that week. And then having that giant force of a snapshot in mind, every single day, you time box what I need to do on Monday. And then you estimate how long each of those activities will take. For example, today I time boxed our recording. I blocked off 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after and an hour during. So in my calendar, I know where I'm spending my time, my energy, my intention with you. And I know what my intention is for these tasks. And what that does is it provides guardrails in our lives to ensure that we identify what's most important and we're getting what is most important done. Because usually we delay and we procrastinate our most important tasks because they're overwhelming, because we have perfectionistic tendencies. And these two tools in tandem, timeboxing and the 4D formula, really help my executives, my business owners, people that I work with, optimize their performance day in and day out.
So you bring something up that's interesting, something that I struggle with, where to some degree, and I wanted to talk, maybe ask it in a question format, but this idea of perfection being the enemy. And over the last, 20 years of leading organizations, and I have gotten away from being okay, maybe failing, or that maybe that I don't like golfing because I'm not very good, or you're not doing. I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was a fascinating question. It's like, what question are you asking that's interesting, right? It's like, well, what's something new that you've done over the last month that you weren't very good at? Or like, and we just, for the most part, as adults, we're just like nothing. Like the older we get, I don't want to talk, the older that I get, the less that I'm doing these new things where I stink at them. And just getting over the stink and keep doing them and trying them, or being okay with just sucking at it. So this idea of perfection, or being the enemy of progress and things of that nature, when you're thinking of it from a performance perspective, how are you coaching people or talking to people so they get out of their own heads and they start to embrace the suck, or to just continue to power through? What guidance do you give them?
It's all mindset. It's all attitude. It's all heart set. So when something is hard for them, I teach them to celebrate it, because that means they're growing. That means they're outside of their comfort zone, right? Perfection is the enemy of progress, but it's also the enemy of performance, because you're not really bringing your
true self, all your focus, all your faculty, all your abilities on actually performing. You're trying to be perfect. And mastery is something we can't achieve through healthy striving. Perfection is something that we should just not value at all as a society. So when I'm coaching people, I just talk to them about, like, how does perfectionism impact you? And actually, Casey, you've helped me in my own growth in this area.
Okay.
When you and I first started, well, I'm gonna.
All right.
When you and I first started working together,
you really modeled for me that growth mindset. And the key secret sauce to performance is the growth mindset, which says challenge is opportunity, not threat. Criticism is something I can learn from and I can integrate into becoming a better version of myself. The success, the talents, the wins of others are my inspiration, not my competition. And I'm allowed to be a human being who brings what she can with what she's got.
Yeah, I love that.
You really modeled that for me and helped me in my own journey out of perfectionism. And I have found, ironically, the more I'm willing to let go of that pressure to be perfect, the better I perform.
And give me some idea, because I agree with all of that, but how does it make you feel? Like, what's the mental mind game when it comes to that? Because that would seem to be where the progress and perfection really is having its biggest battle, is upstairs. So how do you, if that
battlefield of the mind.
That's right.
So I think about it in a Venn diagram, right? I can be disciplined. And it's really important that I'm disciplined. I need to do my best. I need to bring my best. I need to study. I need to prepare. I need to give what I've got, right? 100% of what I've got. Some days, if Rachel only has 20% in her battery and she gives 20%, that's 100% of what I've got.
Yeah.
And so there's a discipline and there's a surrender. And in the overlap of me being disciplined and me surrendering to the outcome, whatever it is, that's where I find flow. That's where I find freedom. I'm bringing the best that I can and trusting the rest. I trust my higher power and I trust myself. And in that place of self-trust comes pure presence, freedom, and flow. And that really is a secret sauce to performance. It's just an open hand mentality of I'm going to bring what I got and trust the rest.
And do you find that trusting the rest is a product of the discipline over and over and over, right? Because I find performance is like batting practice, just continuously like refining your swing, understanding the pitch, the environment around you, the discipline of showing up over and doing more. It's like a golf swing, a batting practice, like just getting in the box and continuously practicing your craft. And so trusting in the process comes from preparation, comes from the discipline of doing these things. When I always, one of the things I caution about when people listen to too many podcasts, read too many books, it's analysis paralysis. But there's one thing that I find to be almost undefeated is the discipline of continuing to show up and continuing to do. And is that I feel like with the way that the content is able to be distributed and created at such ease and low cost, that there's so much out there for people to pick and choose from that they continue to consume versus do. So the discipline of doing is really important. And so I talk a lot about that in some of our management leadership teams. It's like, hey, sometimes I'd rather you mess up and do than sit and overanalyze, right? But how do you want to think about that?
This is how I think about it. And this is how I want everyone I work with to think about it. And I want to invite your listeners to consider integrating this mindset. Mastery is iterative. You don't have to be great at the start, but you have to start to be great.
Yeah. Wow.
Iterate, iterate, iterate. I have gotten so good at what I do because I have a growth mindset. Every coaching session, I'm not a 10 out of 10, but I look at it. When I am a 6 out of 10, I look at what were my strengths, what were my weaknesses, what are my sustained, what are my improves. And every iteration, I'm getting stronger and stronger and stronger and better and better and better. So I think you couldn't have picked a more perfect bow on this topic of performance, which is mastery is iterative. Get out there, do it imperfectly. Look at your performance. What are the sustains, the things you want to continue to do next time? And where are the improves? Maybe the things you tried that didn't go so hot and you want to try something different next time.
I love that. And I think that's a great kind of maybe a pivot point for us to talk a little bit about a subject that is also near and dear to my heart, and that's leadership. And I think to start any leadership conversation, I have a question, which is, leaders, are they born or are they bred? Do they come out of the womb and you're like, hey, I'm this hard charging alpha, I'm going to be a leader, or is it something that is learned? What is your...
I have an unpopular, very politically incorrect opinion.
Oh, I can't wait.
I think they're born.
Wow. Okay. So almost everyone says...
I know.
They're bred. Right?
I think it's bullshit.
Really?
I really do. So there's temperament, there's personality that my field of psychology has shown is pretty static, meaning it's not really going to change over the course of someone's lifetime. And then there's behaviors. We can teach communication skills. There's a very real reason when I deliver keynotes and workshops about leadership, I present the definition of leadership as a set of essential soft skills. Because skills can be coached, skills can be taught, skills can be practiced imperfectly and improved upon. But I find there are naturally born leaders. And those are the folks that whether or not they're in a position of authority, they lead. People look to them. People look to them for cues. How do I show up? What do I do? How do I do it? There are, again, things that we can train and coach and help people that don't have that natural leadership ability built into their temperament to help them improve. But I really do believe, and I have found, that leaders are born.
That's so interesting. I like that, and I respect that a lot. I think one of the things with leadership that goes missed is everyone, to some degree, is a leader, right? Now, whether or not they're good at it is a different story, but they are leading their lives. They're the CEO of their own health. They're leading their, some of their friends or family or groups at work, or there's a whole litany of things that people are doing just in their natural day in, day out lives where they are leading. And to be aware of it gives like some point of emphasis to be better at it or think about it, right? And so when we are leading, and you mentioned these soft skills, talk a little bit about that. Give us some idea when you're doing your keynote or talking, because I know when we first met, you were talking to 20 CEOs of all different companies in all different sizes. And so you're talking to a group of people that are, whether they're good or bad, they're leading organizations, which are leading, a huge swath of thousands of people. Yeah, so you're talking to an interesting group. So when you talk about leadership, especially to a group like that or any group, what are those soft skills that you want people to understand?
I highlight 5 in my keynote. And it's through studying elite leaders that I've formulated these 5 pillars of leadership. To me, great leaders, what I call elite leaders, do these 5 things extremely well. And it all comes down to energy and communication. So first and foremost, elite leaders communicate very clearly what the mission, vision, and values of their organization are. The mission is like the job description of a business. It's what the business is here to do in the marketplace. The vision is what the future will look like if that business is successful in its mission. And the values of the organization are the chosen ways of performing that everyone is expected to hold themselves to and each other to.
Well, that's a lot. Okay. So so I heard this quote, Tim Ferriss has this quote and I'm going to butcher this a bit, but the context is, or the meaning is the same. It's that my quality of life will be determined by the amount of difficult conversations that I have. So when you talk about leadership and you talk about energy and communication, I want to get your take on these difficult conversations. What are ways that anyone, because if you're the one initiating a difficult conversation, there's a difficulty to it that we all struggle with. And for the most part, my opinion is that people just brush it under the rug. So instead of address it, they just say, it's not worth it, or I don't know how to do it, or it's going to turn into a fight. They've already basically, put it out there that this is what's going to happen. It's going to be the worst case scenario. And so they don't.
Decided it's not going to go well, so why bother?
Yeah. So let's jump into the communication piece of it, because I am just really diving into that in my business life and my personal life, is having these difficult conversations and maybe not doing them like I've done in the past, but thinking about them different. And then what you said, to your point of when I'm in these coaching sessions and I'm a 6 out of 10, I'm thinking about why I was a 6 and then making adjustments, right? It's like, so you're continuously iterating on these conversations, but talk a little bit about communication specifically on these difficult conversations.
This is the thing that keeps most leaders up at night. They know there's an issue. They can see it plain as day. And they're not exactly sure how to handle it perfectly.
Yeah.
So what do? I've done it myself. I brush it under the rug. I say, I'll get to that later, or these items are more important. And what are we doing? We're skirting our responsibility as leaders. Because as leaders, it is our job to have those difficult conversations, those uncomfy moments of radical candor. And the biggest barrier I find is that leaders don't know how to do it. And who can blame us? We were never taught the soft skills we need. In high school, we're taught the Pythagorean theorem. Hello. But we're not taught about how to have a difficult conversation. You and I have had difficult conversations. And I love that for our relationship. Because when you bring me an issue, I say, oh, wow, Casey can be real with me. He trusts me. He values our relationship. That's beautiful. That's incredible. And I can lean into that. And that is a kind of professional intimacy we should be creating as leaders. And so in my coaching conversations, one of the highlights is, what difficult conversations are you avoiding? And can I provide you with the formula to tackle that head on? And I have a very simple scaffolding called the HEAL model. What are the facts? We need to separate our facts from our feelings because our brain is very biased. And sometimes we confuse feelings with facts. So getting your facts straight is a part of the homework required for leaders to address the issue. Once you've done your homework, and sometimes that involves dealing with your own fury, your own irritation, your own frustration, like they should know better. How many times do I have to tell them this, right? All of these natural emotions we feel as leaders, we have to deal with that. Because if we come into the conversation already hot internally, frustrated and on edge, the person that reports to us is going to pick up on that. And if we have a calm body, capable of having a clear mind, and we must bring a clear mind to difficult conversations. So HEAL, do your homework. When you've done your homework, when you've gotten yourself calm, then you express the facts as you understand them. Then you ask the other person for their perspective on the facts you've shared. You may have missing information. You may not be seeing it from the same perspective they are. And once they feel like they've been heard and that their voice is valued by you, they're going to be more open to what comes next. And what comes next is you ask for a reasonable change. Identifying a problem without offering a solution is called complaining. And it's really important as leaders that we identify the problem and give guidance about how we want it resolved. Last but not least, in the HEAL model, list the positive benefits that will come from them saying yes to this request, this guidance. And this is where we really leverage the power of motivation, right? Listing the positive outcomes that will come from them doing this behavior change, improving this area, will help get that buy-in from them that we need to achieve in order for the solution to actually work. And then sometimes, this is the uncomfy part of it for leaders, is our job to also say, these are the negative consequences you can anticipate if this behavior persists. And I find that just having that scaffolding, that simple model, helps people enter into the conversation with more.
Well, I like some of the things that you touched on. So I'm in a unique position just for myself because I work with a majority of women. And so I, as a male in a leadership position, have to be very cognizant of my tone, my body language. And so the other day, I had an issue with a new teammate made a grossly negligent decision and execution and communication.
Woo, easy.
And it was a learning lesson for me. I actually had to leave the office. I left the office. I needed to take the rest of the day to process what I was going to do and think about it more intelligently than just being in the moment and just reacting. I wanted to go get all the facts. I got all the facts. It continued to get worse as the night went on as far as what the decision was. And I said, I'm going to fire this person tomorrow first thing. I woke up the next day and I said, what does that actually do? This could be a coachable moment for someone. And so we had a difficult conversation. We talked kind of through that framework, but it was giving it a little bit of space to not just react and to actually, take this incident and, own it a bit because maybe there were some certain things that weren't clear, it was new and so forth, but taking a little bit of space from the immediate reaction to
the heat of the moment.
The heat of the moment is good. And then also, I think when you think about it, in some of these crucial conversations, these difficult things that you're talking about, elevating your voice, your tone, your body language, those are all things that you can control, hopefully, if you're not just reacting. And so when people are upset, or when you're talking about something that is difficult, you're upset, you have all these emotions and feelings, how do you get to the framework? And I talked a little bit about what I did, is taking a little bit of a break. What are some other things as far as keeping your body language intact? And I guess maybe having a plan would be another one, but these are so critical. Do you have like certain tactical things? Like, okay, yeah, I know I need to have these critical conversations. I can't sweep them under the rug. Tactics to execute at a high level, right?
One very simply is a physiological hack, which is to take a deep, deliberate breath, a belly breath, where you're breathing from your diaphragm. And when you really extend your belly, think of it like filling up like a balloon, you press down on the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve manually activates your rest and digest nervous system. Essentially what it does is it turns down the energy activation inside your nervous system. And it helps you get back into control. Because as you said, like, it would be nice if everyone had control over their physiology, over their thoughts, over their emotions, over their reactions. But most of us really aren't that great at staying in control of our anger and our frustration and our energy in the heat of the moment. But here's what we know. When someone feels unsafe in an exchange, the defenses go up.
Yeah, that's so true.
And true connection, true productive dialogue cannot occur when someone feels unsafe.
When that happens, like when you can sense that it starts to ping pong.
Yes.
Right? And that you're elevated in your defense mechanism, or you can sense it in the other one. What are certain things in the moment that you can do?
Tame it. Name it to tame it, baby.
So call it out.
Call it out. And so, for example, if you and I are having a heated argument about something and I become aware that I am no longer regulated, I become aware that I've become dysregulated, I need to name it to tame it, because it's delusional.
Are you naming it about yourself? Or,
yes. Yeah, I'm going to show you.
You're not saying, hey, Casey, you're not, okay.
I'm
so you're taking ownership of it yourself.
This is what that would sound like. So I'm becoming aware that in the moment I'm dysregulated. And I know that emotions are not private experiences. You perceive my energy. It's delusional of me to think that you cannot pick up on my dysregulation. So I need to name it to tame it. You know what, Case? I'm sorry. I need to take a breath. I'm getting a little more emotional than I need to be. I apologize. This is just really important to me. And I'm feeling like I'm not getting my points across. And I'm feeling like you're not hearing me. And I'm getting frustrated. I need to take a breath. Just give me a sec. And if we're doing that in heat of the moment, it snaps you out of it because, oh shit, Rach just got real. She just took off the mask. She just let me see inside of her. She just communicated that she's not okay. And that's a signal. And I find that that helps get the train back on the tracks. So let's say the opposite happens and you and I are having a difficult conversation and I can tell, I can perceive that your energy activation is going up, your frustration is going up. Maybe your tone hasn't changed. Maybe what you're saying hasn't changed. I can just feel it. I can say, Case, can we time out for a sec? I really want us to resolve this together collaboratively as a team. And I'm sensing you're getting really tense and you don't have to. My relationship with you is my priority. This problem, I know we can handle. I want you to know that I want to hear you. And if I'm not responding to you in a way that shows you I value you and I respect your perspective, I apologize. Because that's the only reason someone really starts to get dysregulated. Yeah. They feel like they're not being valued and they feel like they're not being heard. So I take extreme ownership over my dysregulation. And I also, because I value our relationship, will take ownership over however you're experiencing me in the moment to make it safe again so we can get back to the issue at hand.
Well, that's incredible. That also goes to a book that I like, if we're going to recommend some books, which is Crucial Conversations. And I know
so good.
I know you've read that, but they talk about that. And in the heat of the moment, to own something, to lower the barriers or maybe the temperature in the room, I think is really powerful. And I do know from I guess an evolution of my leadership, I have so frequently been like, not necessarily just dismiss it, but let's just like keep it moving. Cause sometimes to give it fuel or fire is you're nervous that it could then, fawn
make
the
it
flame.
bigger.
Yeah. Or the smoke turns to flame. But I do know that since the maturity, or at least the effort to be more mature in how I'm handling certain things from a leadership or management perspective in talking to people, it becomes, it's a two-way street where I feel the world becomes more manageable, where it's not where I'm shouldering all of this responsibility to have all these thoughts and feelings and maybe even unclear expectations when it comes to some of this. And then it builds the relationship with those that report to me. And I am so passionate and sincere in wanting those relationships to continue to grow and evolve.
I know you are.
I'm like very, very much wanting someone to come in and work at the organization and say, you know what? I'm getting value outside of a paycheck. I feel like I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm motivated, I'm inspired. I want people to, when they're around me, feel more energetic, feel the ability to communicate two ways, that this is a team sport, not a hierarchy or an org chart that keeps going up north and south.
And you highlighted a very important feature that enables that, which is leaders being clear about expectations. I find that our teammates, our employees, the people that report to us genuinely want to please their leaders.
Yeah.
They genuinely want to make their leaders happy. And because we're not clear about what our expectations are, they are spending, and I use that term intentionally because it costs time and energy and money.
Yes, I know where you're going with
so
this.
much energy trying to mind read. Right? Like when I'm not clear about my expectations, the people that work with me are like, what does Rachel want? What does Rachel expect? I don't know. That's a failure of my leadership. So we talked about, one of the pillars of elite leadership being clear mission, vision, values. Another one is clear roles and responsibilities. Just explicitly defining, on this team, this is a position you fill. And the purpose of this position in service of the mission and vision is X, Y, Z. And when you define those expectations explicitly, the people that follow you get to execute with confidence because they know where their target is. They can aim for it with certainty.
Well, that brings up something for me that's interesting. I would imagine you probably have an opinion on it, but is over the last 20 years where I've been blessed to be a leader of all kinds of sizes of organizations, I have a tendency, I'm a fixer and I'm a solver, and I'm quick on my toes and feet. I have an answer for everything, and I can just boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
And then we'll take this and we'll transition into relationships, because this doesn't work in relationships.
No,
but
it does not.
It actually doesn't work in business either. And so something that I've been working on doing a better job at, and I've done it more recently, especially in light of me being involved in things that I'm not necessarily good at or don't want to be doing or not good for the organization, is saying, I trust you to make the right decision. And I will tell you, it is my natural default is to just answer the question. Here's what the answer is. And I am creating the chaos in my mind of just having to be like, I was answering a question on what plants go in a new office. And I was just answering, and I caught myself midway through going, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, this is one of those things where you have what is it where you're answering so many questions, you're just constantly solving problems, and there's what's the metaphor when you're a hammer,
Everything's a nail.
Everything's a nail, and
Yep.
so it's like,
Pop, pop, pop.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, just that whole idea of just solve it this way, solve it, and it's like you internalize it and you say,
Yep.
well, it's just fast, or you rationalize that, which it's just faster for me to tell you.
This is part of your evolution as a leader, and every leader's evolution is peak performers end up in leadership positions. And change is hard, even positive change. So as a leader, you go from being the person that gets shit done to the person who defines what shit needs to get done.
And who's going to do it?
And who's going to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's hard. That transition is really hard. And we grew up in a culture that taught us that leaders know the answers. And I think that creates this problem and sustains the problem. To me, great leaders are great question askers.
Yeah.
And of course you have the answer. But to me, the job of a CEO is to make him or herself irrelevant to the business, because everyone else on the team knows what needs to get done, what standard of excellence they're going to hold themselves and one another to, and they do it.
Whew, yeah. And that journey is actually fun. I think seeing people and their growth is so rewarding from a leadership perspective. And I think that for me is such a takeaway, where I've seen people and how they've grown, evolved, not just financially. I think everyone wants to grow their income, and I get that, and certainly want to respect that and be cognizant of that. But I think it's their skill set and their quality of life and their happiness and satisfaction when it comes to what their career is, specific to what we're doing and the mission and the vision that we're looking to go after, which I have a all hands meeting later this afternoon. And when we're going to talk about the BHAG, right? Jim Collins and the big, hairy, audacious goal. And I had to question it. It's in the presentation. I said, is this big enough? And I think for the time period in which we want to do it, it is, but I love questioning. That line of questioning for myself is like, are you? Because I know when my first goals were, I want to do this by 30, I want to do this by 35, this by 40, this by, and I've been like, gosh, I'm doing all of these things. I got to shoot higher. I got to do more. I got to set higher level of expectation for myself. But that's for another sit down.
Deep dive. Another one-on-one.
Yeah. So I want to pivot. So let's have some fun with this, but also maybe I have so many questions, because I can sit and talk about performance and leadership until, next week. Relationships, I might start to squirm a little bit. And I feel like romantic relationships is the topic. And I want to just really quickly, something that's so unique that I think people will find fascinating. I want to get your take on how this evolved. But when I first met you, I said, I want to do a sit down in a one-on-one. I said, how can I or us, how can we approach the methodology and what you're talking about and create a culture or a framework in my personal relationship? And you did something that was so interesting. You asked a ton of questions. You got kind of the scope of where I was at the time. This was a couple years ago. And you said, okay, I do this one thing, right? And it's so unique that this is the only way that you're going to solve this. And I had never heard it before. And it was basically a retreat style therapy session, but it was like 8 to 15 hours a day, starting on Friday, ending on Sunday. And it's just like a nonstop, right? And so you've done this a couple of times. I don't even know if you do it anymore, but can you talk on what the hell that is? And I've been lucky enough to go through it, but how did you come up with this? And are you still doing it?
I love this question. So again, my background is in marriage family therapy. I'm trained in how to make a couple flourish. And I found that the clinical approach therapy really wasn't enough. Seeing a therapist once a week for maybe an hour, it just didn't resolve the problems. And actually, couples counseling has the lowest efficacy of any form of therapy of them all, because each member in the relationship is lying to themselves, lying to each other, and lying to their therapist. So I thought, okay, like how can I create an environment as a coach that is different than the environment I made in a past life as a couples therapist? And I found that this intensive coaching experience where the couple comes together and gets very clear on what I call their eyes of intimacy. I want, I need, I feel. That's it. A healthy relationship is just two people that are clear about what they want, what they need, and what they feel with each other. And there's that safe space. And what I do is I just facilitate the conversation. Facilitate the conversation. And as all relationships have, you know, we all have skeletons, we all have baggage. I've been married for about a decade to my husband. Yeah. And it's really important that we resolve those issues or they haunt us in the present. And they get triggered by interactions we have with our romantic significant others. And so this intensive coaching weekend is something I'll do by request. If people have the courage and the stamina for, 8 hours of deep dive, tell me about relationship, tell me about your life, tell me about what you want, what's important to you. Tell me about how you see yourself, how you see your mate, what are the barriers to you two connecting. It's very solution focused and very, very concrete communication coaching. I mean, you saw me in the act.
Yeah.
It's intense.
It's intense. And it's interesting because as someone on the receiving end, there's a level of, what are we doing? Okay, where's this going? How does this all fit over a 3-day period? And then it was interesting how you tied it all up at the end. And I was thinking, and my perspective on it now hasn't changed. It was just like how much you have to pour in to that whole experience. I mean, this is as much as, I was sitting on and understanding, like answering questions and trying to process things and trying to learn things. I was just looking at you going, gosh, you're having to do that not just for yourself, but for 2 other people. And you're just in a small confined space and for a long period of time. Whereas, me being on one end, I was able to go work out. I could go eat some certain time. Like you're just rolling with it for,
But Case, that's my superpower, emotional alchemy.
Yeah.
It energizes me. I love being the thermostat of a room, not the thermometer, right? I know that I have the power. I have the ability to change the energy in the room. How do I do that? By making it safe for everybody. And how do I do that? Through unconditional love. Everyone has the right to live their life on their terms. And when we surrender to that truth, that's when we can connect authentically to our romantic partners. And I just help facilitate that process. Like we can't control other people. Yeah. We can only be honest about what we want and need and empower them to say, I can do that or I can't.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Okay, so let me ask of what I will consider fun. Maybe I'll consider it fun until I hear your answer.
Shit, okay. But, pressure's on.
Okay, so someone who's like kind of a hard-charging entrepreneur has some level of control in their organization because you want to control the controllables, and you can go in a long diatribe about that. But and we have not rehearsed this, so this is just totally off the cuff. You have no idea what question is coming, right?
I have no idea what's about to happen.
What is your advice to me for love and relationships in regard to a partner? Okay, now I'm nervous. That was a healthy pause to where now I'm.
No, what I really do. That's such a great question. It's such a bold question to ask, and I just want to honor the courage, the vulnerability that asking that had by truly going in and identifying what I would want for you. Casey, what I would want for you is just to get radically clear on the life and the love that you crave, you desire. Define it clearly, confidently, without apology. And then share that with people that you think could be the person. And if they are the person, they'll lean into that with curiosity, compassion, dare I say excitement and chemistry. Whew, Casey, you want what I got. Let's go. And I think the hard part for you in creating that desired future reality for yourself will be surrendering what is outside of your control.
The word surrender is a tough one.
It is. It's a tough one. Control is an illusion.
Yeah.
In business, you're right. Like, I'll probably write a book about C-suite romance because you're in charge at work and you can bring that energy at home. My husband's a Navy SEAL. He tries to bring his work self at home in our personal life. I'm like, I'm not one of your buddies. Do not talk to me that way. You cannot boss me around, right? He's a chief and he's in charge of his platoon. And sometimes he talks to me like one of his soldiers and like, whoa, you're at home right now.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work, honey. No, it doesn't work. Go figure. But surrender is the path to true freedom, peace, and ease. Because when you surrender the outcome and just bring your authentic self, the people you attract are your people. The love you attract is the love you crave, desire, and need. And whatever you repel from that state of authenticity is protection, not rejection.
Okay. Well, okay. So I'm just kind of maybe similar to you from the standpoint of is there a saying that drives me nuts, and it's happy wife, happy life. And it's just like, oh God.
Drives me bonkers too, as a wife.
Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah, because I'm like, wait, isn't this a two-way? Shouldn't both people be happy? And I hear this from like defeated husbands all the time, and they make these jokes.
It's like disgusting. It disgusts me.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. All right. So we agree on this one because I'm always like, I listen to that and I'm like, you're defeated. And like your happiness should not be dismissed, right? Okay, so.
Yes. It's interesting. As children, little boys are taught how to treat little girls, and little girls are taught how they should be treated by little boys. But culturally, we're never taught how girls should treat boys, how women should treat men. And we have a mental health crisis in America. Men are not okay because they're taught to die on their swords for their women, but don't have any needs, don't have any wants, don't have any feelings. And it is so fucked up. And I'm so deeply passionate about empowering men to step into their truths. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I feel. And that's why I take real offense and disgust to that phrase, happy wife, happy life, because it creates a hierarchy of happiness. Her happiness is more important. The husband,
not even more important, it's the only thing.
The only thing.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, there's not even a hierarchy.
You're
it's just
right.
like, this is it. And that's the only it, which is very odd. I've never really understood that, but I agree with you on this one.
It's odd. It's oppressive. To me, it reinforces the belief that a woman's happiness doesn't come from within, which is where true happiness can come from.
Oh, do tell this one. I feel so passionate about this one, right? What is your line? Correct me if I'm wrong. Happiness is an inside job.
That's my line, baby.
That's your line, because you have told me that before. I want you to, I don't want to interrupt, but I don't want to forget this one.
Let's do it. We can pivot.
So happiness is an inside job. What does that mean? Give me all of the details on that I think everyone can learn from this one.
I agree. Everyone can. And it's infuriating, but it's true. Happiness is an inside job. Everything you experience in life is dictated by what happens inside of you, not around you. Your perceptions are your reality. So, Casey, you cannot make me feel any kind of way without my permission, without my endorsement. People really do need to embrace this freeing reality that happiness is an inside job. Take care of yourself. Know who you are. Like who you are. Be who you are. Drop the mask. And you'll find that happiness is accessible within. And by the way, codependency is one of the biggest inhibitors to happiness because you are reliant on someone else to make you happy. The only reason my marriage with my husband works is because my husband understands his happiness is his responsibility. I don't take any responsibility for his happiness. I'm not responsible for him. I love him. I have his back. I support him. I encourage him. Absolutely, the things that I do impact how easy that inside job is for him. But I'm not responsible for his happiness, and he's not responsible for mine. And it's so liberating to embrace that truth.
What is your take thank you for that. I agree with that so wholeheartedly. But what is your take on the current state of dating in the world today? As a marriage and family counselor, or it was a marriage and family.
As a classically trained marriage family therapist.
Thank you. Yes.
The dating today is terrifying because sex is just a swipe away. Like real talk. Never ever before has sex been so available to us as a society. And so what that does is it can really bastardize the beauty of courtship. Let me get to know you before we hop in the sack together, right? To me, sex is a spiritual experience. It is a really sacred thing. And unfortunately, today with all of these dating apps, it is just really redefining the way we date. And I don't think that we have the cognitive evolution to understand the consequences.
Oh, interesting. Well, the pendulum may have swung so far to the apps, to the isolation of COVID, to where we're starting to maybe see it come back to.
God, I hope so.
I don't know this.
I've been out of the game for a decade. Casey, I've been out of the game for over a decade. So I look to you on this one.
There's a level of when you say courtship, like learning how to approach and talk to people in real life, right? That I think is a lost art.
It's an art, how to approach and talk to them, how to share who you are. How to talk about meaningful things, how to share your hobbies with one another, how to have shared experiences that are bonding and fun, and you get to show who you are, not tell who you are. I think the lost art of dating is something we are getting back to. I mean, I've been out of the dating pool for a decade, but I do hear that people are trying to meet IRL. In real life again. IRL, that's what the kids call it, outside of the dating app.
Are there pillars as people are either evaluating whether or not someone is right for them, or as they're thinking about dating or relationships in general? Are there foundational pillars that you find that are non-negotiables?
Everyone has non-negotiables.
So understanding what yours are.
So my approach as a coach is very unique. You know this about me, and I think it's part of why you've worked with me for so long is I treat the whole person. I don't separate the personal from the professional.
Right.
And so one of the exercises I have everyone I work with do is to create their lover's manual. What does loving you well look like? What are your non-negotiables? Because when you can clearly define it, you can authentically honor those non-negotiables. So when somebody disrespects you, when somebody does something that's in violation of how you want to and need to be treated, you know what to do.
Well, maybe people don't know what to do.
Maybe
I go. Oh, okay. I thought that look may have been
people
for me.
People definitely don't know what to do.
Well, okay. So I always call it moving the goalpost, right? Like the ball goes up, it's going to be off, so you move the goalpost so it goes in. It's like we're rewarding for second place. These ideas of I have boundaries, but I keep negotiating the boundaries and I keep accepting.
The skill of will is essential in romance.
Okay.
The skill of will. So they're called non-negotiables for a reason. You're a businessman, you know? They apply in our personal lives as well. Non-negotiables are, this must be a feature of our dynamic. And if it's not a feature of our dynamic, I leave you in love, not in anger, not in resentment, not in hostility, but what I require, what I desire is not something you freely give. And so that just means I'm not your person and you're not mine, and I'm freeing you to find your person and freeing me to find mine as well. That's the beauty of unconditional love that can happen even in a breakup.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so we've touched on a lot of different topics today. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah.
Tell us about what the plan is for the business. I'm curious on how it's thegardengroup.com, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
The Garden Group, thegardengroup.com, spelled with an I, not an E, because I believe leaders need to guard who they let in to their organization. Essentially, our mission is to coach leaders and key team members in the skills of performance and leadership so that the organization and everyone within it can flourish. It's based upon very simple leadership and communication formulas, a couple of which we've talked about today. And I've got an incredible team of contractors that hop on projects with me, some of which you've met at your New Venture Escrow events that we've done together. And the vision is a flourishing workforce for all of the customers we get to work with. I think I have 16 executives on the coaching roster right now, and I'm loving it. My dancing card is full at the moment, which I feel very fortunate to have. And I am, as a businesswoman, as an entrepreneur, facing, a very big question of scalability. And if I want to scale, right? Like I want, my massive transformative purpose in life is to help people discover their personal freedom and right to authenticity. That's really what I'm passionate about. So I'm thinking very seriously about taking a sabbatical to write a book and kind of formulate all of my ideas. This is the first time I've actually said this out loud.
Wow.
So that's pretty crazy. That's the Garden Group. That's where they can find us.
And I love that. Well, as someone who has had the unique experience of being on multiple different levels from the coaching perspective, on all three of these pillars that we've hit today, from performance, leadership, and relationship, I have had a unique seat at the table, or hotel, or office, or boardroom, or even an outside walk. I've had many meetings, many one-to-ones, and have been in awe in all three facets. I've been a big, big fan of yours. Really, like I said, when I was taking that presentation with other CEOs, I was just like, something resonated to the point of like, wow, that's it. And we've been working together really ever since. So I'm a client, a fan, and a friend, and I appreciate you. I think if anyone has any interest in bettering themselves, go to your website, read the blogs. Definitely, we can't wait for the book. But thank you for today. Thank you for opening up, sharing with us, and giving us some insight as to how, as a coach, someone who started in marriage and family and has turned and pivoted to not just that, but performance. And what I love, and I don't think we talked about it, was I've been to therapy. I've been to, these one-on-ones, these weeklies, and as someone who doesn't charge for that, even though you're trained and licensed and educated to do that, this idea of coaching to where whether or not you like it or don't like it, as from my seat at the table, which is basically the one who's I'm answering the questions, and then I have to take the feedback, right? And it's the coaching feedback versus the therapy feedback, which is different, which I can appreciate. And again, maybe it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody because it's very direct. It's like
very direct,
right between the eyes, whether you like it or not. This is it's not what you want to hear. It's what you need to hear.
Yes.
And it's very powerful. So thank you. Thank you for giving us some insight into that. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for all of the things that you've done for my business, for myself, for my friends and family too. So
I want to thank you, Casey, so much for all of the opportunities to use my gift and pour into your people and pour into you. I want to thank you for your advocacy. Truly, I was in a very low point in my own mental health in 2014, and I called you for help. And you showed up and you connected me to the people that I'm still working with today. And I'm loving the work, and my mental health is better than it's ever been. And you never forget who supported you when you hit rock bottom. And you were one of those people. And I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you so much for that.
Oh, well, that's nice of you to say thank you. I guess that's a perfect place for us to end it. Thank you for your time and energy today. This was amazing.
Fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. I think we covered a lot of ground. So
All the grounds.
yeah, all the grounds. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks, Rach.